The wind had a cruel way of stripping sound from the land, turning every cry into silence. The cowboy first noticed the boy because he did not cry at all. He stood still on the frozen trail, boots too thin for the snow, hands clenched at his sides as if holding himself together. When the horse snorted, the boy lifted his face, eyes glassy with fear, and whispered, "Mama can't walk anymore." Behind him lay a woman slumped against a fallen pine, her skirts stiff with ice, her breath barely fogging the air. One glance told the cowboy the truth. Fever had taken her strength, and the storm would soon take the rest. This was the winter of 1879, the kind that buried wagons and swallowed men whole. No one survived it alone. The cowboy dismounted and knelt beside her. Her skin burned beneath his gloves, yet her body shook uncontrollably. She tried to lift her head, failed, and closed her eyes as if ashamed. He did not ask questions. Out here, explanations came too late. He wrapped her in his coat, lifted her carefully, and placed the boy on his horse. With the reins tied and his arms full, he began walking toward his cabin, every step sinking deep into the snow. The trail vanished before they were halfway there. Snow cut at his face like glass, and more than once his legs buckled under the woman's weight. The boy watched silently from the saddle, whispering prayers he barely understood. When the cabin finally emerged through the white haze, its lone lantern glowing like a promise, the cowboy nearly fell to his knees in relief. Inside, the fire roared to life. He laid the woman on his bed, fed her warm water by the spoonful, and pressed cold cloths to her brow. The boy stayed close, eyes never leaving his mother. Hours passed before her breathing steadied. When she woke, confusion turned to fear, then softened when she saw her son unharmed. Tears slid into her hair as she whispered thanks. Her name was Clara. Her husband had died in a mine 2 years earlier, crushed beneath rock and greed. She had tried to go west, chasing the promise of work and land, but sickness and winter had caught her on the road. She believed she would die there, and worse, that her boy would be left alone. The cowboy, Eli, said little. He split wood, hunted when the weather allowed, and shared what little he had without complaint. Clara's strength returned slowly. Some days she could sit, other days she could barely lift her head. Eli slept on the floor, rising through the night to tend the fire, listening to the wind batter the walls like a living thing. Weeks passed. Snow softened. Samuel learned to laugh again, chasing chickens and asking endless questions. Clara learned that kindness could be quiet, steady, and without demand. One evening, with the last of winter retreating, from the valley she stood on trembling legs and did not fall. She clung to Eli, crying into his shoulder, not from pain, but from the weight of surviving. When spring arrived, Clara spoke of leaving. Towns needed teachers. Roads were opening. Samuel said nothing, but his small hand found Eli's coat and held tight. Eli only nodded, though the cabin felt emptier already. The next morning, Clara did not pack. She stood in the doorway, sunlight warming her face, and asked if there was room to stay. Eli stepped aside without a word. In the land that took more than it gave, 3 lives endured because one man chose to stop, listen, and carry what others could not.